It drives me nuts. He's talking about the soil and roots and how there's something better. And you might have the missing answers to the questions that we can't answer for you. And so, what was that, John, 2 years ago?
It's been that, yeah. Right now, about 2 years ago now.
So 2 years ago, I meet up with John, and he starts telling me the interactions between the micronutrients. And I just start shaking my head, and John's asking me, why are you shaking your head? I'm like, because I knew the answers, I just didn't know the why. And now you're telling me the why. So we started using John's products instantly. The lawns started reacting. The lawns started reacting. The lawns definitely next level. So, aside from that, my bigger problem came, which was the homeowners. Once I got the solution fixed and I got the soil and the dirt right, the homeowners kept calling over and over and over, hey, I need you to check this out. So I had to stop the bleeding because people were canceling. And I go out there and the lawn's right. I said, well, the lawn's right. And they're like, no, it's not proven. Oh, crap. I got to prove it now? So I grab a screwdriver and I stick it in the green part and it goes straight down. Straight, no problems. So I go to the dry part that I say is dry and I stick it in and it only goes half an inch. And you laugh, right? I've been doing this for months, and this lady grabs my screwdriver. She's like, no, that's crap. She grabs it and starts shoving it into the ground as hard as she can do it. And I was just like, that's not how it works. And no matter what I said, if people couldn't see it, they couldn't figure it out. So I started developing these processes of pattern, color, water test, debris and thatch, density, and pull testing, just to make sure that everything was balanced. So the biggest thing that I'm preaching now is balance. There's going to be an imbalance. You know, the video that I'm watching later on today, my technician made an error that caused balance, which was kind of funny. The lawn was completely out of whack, and it was tied up. And just one accidental ingredient, poof, everything goes normal. But there's no happenstance. My preaching is do the work, get out there, don't do the guesswork. Everybody wants to throw the kitchen sink at the wall these days. The suppliers, you go to the local dealers, they're going to tell you, hey, get this bag, and you say, why? And they go, well, that's because it's the summer blend. Well, look at the lawn. Let it tell the story, but that's it, guys. Appreciate your time.
Bravo. Great stuff,
Ooh. Okay, so
I'd like to show you
my deal, I just like to mow grass. I love to mow grass. I don't know the science. I don't really care. I want to know about the science. It's not a big deal to me because I just put products on the lawn and they work. And so for me, I've kind of always been, I guess, a little bit into lawn care. My parents are their yard crazy. They always kind of have been. As a kid, I never really liked working in the lawn or in the landscape. But they always kind of made me do it, and I was pulling weeds, and I was just kind of doing the unenjoyable things as a kid. And I pretty much vowed I'm never going to have a lawn like that. I'm never going to have a yard like that because I don't want to have to do all that work. My mom has tons of perennials that she's always managing and all this stuff. And so I was removed from that for a lot of years. When I got my own house, that is when I took ownership of my place. And I just, had a desire to make it look cool. So we've always mowed the lawn at my parents' house. I've always done that as a kid. We've always mowed it short. I grew up here in Orem, and we always mowed it short. Not as short as I'm doing now, and we didn't have a cylinder rail mower, but we always kind of cut it at about 1.5 inches or 2 inches, maybe 2 inches. And we just always liked the way it looked. I remember growing up, my dad would just be out there. We always did seed. We never did saw. understood. You know, my friends and neighbors are all doing sod. Dad, why aren't you doing sod? Oh, this is a better product. Okay, whatever. And he would go spend hours leveling the ground before we put the seed down, dragging and dragging and dragging. And I just remember that when we put the seed down, and then, you know, a year later, it was beautiful. It was always smooth and very nice. And so I always appreciated that, because I did do the mowing growing up. And so that kind of transition to, I've always mowed my whole life, you know, wherever I've been, I've always mowed the lawn. I haven't necessarily taken the care like I am now. So I kind of always wanted to do that. So when I did my lawn now, I grew it from seed. I've been in that house since January 14th, so 4 years I've been in that house. And I just grew it from seed. I paid somebody to come hydro seed down, but I specifically said, I want this blend of seed. Don't give me your crap, because they were trying to sell me this, and I said, no, I want that crap. I want these seeds. And so we put it in there, and, you know, it was a struggle at first, and it took a little while to get going. And I started mowing in a rotary mower for maybe a year or something, and that's all I had. But I was just kind of continually working it down with the rotary mower. I kind of was always keeping it short. And, you know, everybody around me was giving me flack. Everybody. Why are you seeding? Why are you cutting it that short? Why are you out there so much? Why? You know, they're all just giving me crap. I'm like, you wait and see, you know. It may look bad right now, but just wait, you know. Because they're like, well, it's so patchy, you know, it was growing in from the seed. And so I got hell for that. And I still do to this day. Everybody around me wants to first compliment me and then slam me for, you know, you spend too much time on there, you know, you should be spending time with your kids and family, and yeah, that could be the case, but I love it. Like, it's my favorite thing to do. So like when I come home from work, I work from, you know, 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 or whatever. I get home from work, and I'm a general contractor. I work for a general contractor. Everybody wants to know that question. What do you do for work? I work for a general contractor. So I get off at 5, and I go straight to the lawn. I go straight into the lawn. I don't even go inside. I'm in the lawn, and I'm just seeing what's going on. And so the part that really kind of took my lawn from pretty good, and I got a lot of compliments when I was just a brewery, but where it really went to the next level, skyrocketed, was when I got the greens mower, the Toro Greensmaster 1000. And
It's here. It's here today.
I brought it today.
I brought it today.
Anyway, that is where my lawn really skyrocketed to the next level. And I just wanted to go down and down and down. And the stripes, and, you know, yes, I do spend a lot of time in my lawn. Yes. Do I want to disclose the number of hours that I put in my lawn? I don't know if I want to do that. But I do, I am out there every day, you know, Monday through Saturday out there, and so, I don't know, I just love it. It's really fun to me. The one thing I love about grass is that you can physically see the difference. So you're mowing it, and literally within about one season, if you're kind of giving it a lot of attention, you can see the big difference. You can take a lawn from pretty bad in one season to pretty good, you know, with some weed control and with proper mowing techniques. That's what I really love about grass. You can just see you can physically see it, and it doesn't take that long to recover. So, so the lawn rebel thing, I didn't name myself that. Somebody on the lawn farm named me that. His name's Ridge Runner. He kind of suggested that, so I just kind of went with it. And the reason that that came to pass with the lawn rebel is that I do everything non-traditional of what everybody else is preaching. I'm cutting low, I'm not worrying about my fertilizer, I'm watering it maybe more than I should, and I'm just doing everything controversial. It literally is controversial, and people will give me hell for that. If you read the comment sections of some of my videos, there's some bad stuff in there. But I don't delete the comments. I leave them in there because I'm not going to be that guy that goes in and deletes comments. I'm not going to do it. So, but I love it. It is so fun for me. I'm willing to try pretty much everything. I'm willing to try it. A lot of people are scared to try this or try that on their lawn. I'll go for it. If it kills my lawn, then it's not a big deal. I'll just replant it and go with it. Yeah, I have a lot of time into it, but it's not a big deal. You know, if I put a product on there, it burns. Especially in our area, Kentucky bluegrass, it's resilient. You could do anything to that grass and it'll just come back. You know, it's awesome grass. But anyway, so that's kind of my story. Where do I see myself going in the future? I don't know. I'm the kind of guy that kind of gets really heavy into things and just kind of focuses, and you know, I'm all about that, and then I'll kind of master that, and I will move on to something else. And maybe this is just a small phase for me. I don't know. I hope not, because I've been gardening for a lot of years. I love to grow, you know, vegetables and my raspberries and everything that we got growing up there. It's an awesome place to be. I love it. So some people have been asking me about the video production. Say, well, how much time do you spend on video production versus, you know, working in the lawn? So the video production, I will spend hours and hours and hours doing video production. It sounds crazy, but you're like literally sitting on the computer for 6 to 8 hours, if not longer at times, to make a little, you know, 5 to 8 minute video. It's just a lot of time that you put into making it. Is it worth it? I don't know, but I kind of made a video. I never really intended to be on YouTube. That's the crazy thing. I never intended to be on YouTube. Yeah, I kind of wanted to be there, but I never kind of intended it to be in this fashion. And like John was saying, the community is awesome. Like, it's exactly what you said. I didn't really know that there was this community. You know, I just like to cut grass, and then I found a lawn forum, and then I started kind of posting some videos for those guys to see, and then you guys started watching, and then they're like, hey, can you make another one? Oh, sure. Can you make another one? And it just kind of happened, you know? I wasn't planning on doing YouTube, but it just kind of evolved and happened. Which is so weird, and I met so many cool people. You know, I spent some time with Alan the lawn care nut. Met John, I met Matt Martin, I met Pete, you know, Ryan Orr. I talked to all these people. You know, I have them on my cell phone and we text. You know, it's fun to see these people and to be a part of this community. Did I want to go to GAE? I absolutely did. But it just didn't work. The flight was like $1,200. I just said, I'm not going to do that. So I decided we went down to southern Utah, Haynesville area, and went motorcycle riding. And that was way, way, way fun. And I got to spend the time with my kids and my family and some other families, and we were all together. Next year, we're going to go to GAE, absolutely. When I saw those videos and pictures together, I was like, dang it. I should have gone. But at the same time, I was with my kids, and we had an awesome time together. So, anyways, that's kind of my story in a nutshell. And I'm sure we'll get some questions if you guys want to ask me some stuff. I'm sure we'll get to that at some point.
Great. What do you want to do, Jeremy?
Let's go and open it up for questions.
Yeah.
Of course.
Question. You said you're willing to try anything. Are you going to try toe shoes?
No!
You lied.
On the lawn!
No. I heard 90% of his success is because of toe
What about
shoes.
no shoes? Toe shoes.
I am a shoe guy.
All right. No shoes, toe shoes.
Makes everybody take their shoes off when they come in the house. No. I'm a shoe guy. I'm offended when I come to your house and you ask me to take my shoes off. No, I'm not taking my shoes off. If you want me to come in, I'm not taking them off. I'll stay outside. Yeah, so I am willing to try anything. A couple of weeks ago, I tried that stuff called Choice 02, which is some formula this guy came up with, and I got hell for that video. People were like, you're damaging the environment, you shouldn't use this stuff, this is nuclear. I was like, you know, they said it's good. so I'm gonna try it, and it didn't do anything to my lawn. Like, I didn't see any negative effects of it. I applied it probably 3 weeks ago, and it's fine. You know, the grass right now is pretty well dormant. It's not growing anymore.
The
But
the
yeah,
sulfur flux,
The-
whatever it is.
deuterium.
Yeah, that's right.
sulfate. Somebody said it was basically straight citric acid or some kind of acid. And, you know, I need acid on my lawn because my pH is 8 and it needs to come down. So I was willing to try that. He said it's a pH neutralizer. So
It's basically a heavy water, so like sulfur and H2O2, but they just do a
yeah,
reaction.
H2 is what people
Yeah,
talk
so
about.
it's a very heavy acid and it contains tons of oxygen, so it'll chew through stuff.
Yeah, they said
You
it's
can take
supposed
it
to
to
go
help
all the way down and help the roots or help with drainage or something like that. And, you know, people were all over me for that video. I took that video down and people were like, oh, put it back up. So I put it back up. And I just, you know, I'm trying not to do things that are super controversial. You know, I'm trying to be like, do I monetize YouTube? Do I not monetize YouTube? Do I just want to mow grass? But, you know, at the same time, what you guys see on YouTube, that is me. You know, that is me through and through, for real. Like, I'm not trying to put on YouTube or anything like that. That's me. You know, and, you know, sometimes some things come out of my mouth, and sometimes I'll edit things out, but a lot of times I'll just leave the weird stuff in, because it's funny.
True story.
Yeah.
The reason I found you on YouTube was because you were a comment way back, I think last spring. You were comparing working in your yard, which you love your yard, like comparing to a marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's your marriage doing?
Okay, so here's the deal.
Let's get right in.
A lot of people say you're spending too much time on your lawn and not in your marriage. Okay, maybe, yeah. But here's the deal. My wife is cool. She's awesome. She understands and knows that if that's gonna make me happy, she's all about it. She wants me to be in the lawn because she knows that makes me happy. And so she's cool with it. You know, you know, if I'm in the house, what else am I doing anyways? I'm sitting on the couch looking at my phone.
But other people's grass.
You know? So yeah, it is fun and we're cool. She's good with it. A lot of people said, how does your wife handle this? And you know, yeah, she would likely spend less time, but at the same time, like she knows it makes me happy. So
There's worse
and
things.
that's the deal with the compost trees. I hate those trees. I want them gone because they're just trash trees. But she let me cut them down, or cut a few of them down, because she knows in the long term that that's what I want. So she doesn't want them to be cut down only for the reason that they are mature and they are there and they provide shade and they're kind of, you know, a privacy blocker and all that. But they're gone. They're going. They won't be there for, you know, another year or so, and I'll cut the rest of them down. So, anyways. Anybody else have any questions for anybody else?
I actually have a question for you. So when you went previous to spraying your lawn, setting it up, were you even considering like soil composition and like did you test it, or was it just kind of like let's just make it level and go to town?
Yeah. No.
Do you
testing.
regret that?
No.
No.
Why would I?
Just kind of after the fact, like trying to change, you know, things that maybe it was, you know, too clay, or you know, and now you're struggling to try and, you know,
A
get
little
back to
bit.
where.
Maybe a little bit.
I guess that's what I'm
I
asking.
guess the only thing that I can maybe possibly regret is I did not save the tag that was put into the hydroseeder of the seed. So I don't know exactly 100% what seed. I'm pretty sure I know which ones it is, but I don't know for sure. You know, I was gonna put a lawn in regardless, and I don't know what kind of options I really have. You know, I know I wanted strictly Kentucky blues, didn't want fescue, and I didn't want perennial rye, it was just all Kentucky blue. You know, a couple of years later, I did introduce perennial rye, and that stuff is incredible. It is so awesome. It stripes amazingly. It cuts, you know, it grows up in a week. You're cutting it. It's just fantastic lawn. So no, I didn't really do.
So
I didn't become lawn crazy until it was already almost half. So yeah.
Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
No, so go back, put in the perennial line, you know, as a Kentucky still, they say it takes 2 years for a Kentucky to fully mature.
Yeah.
Is that Kentucky pushing out some of that line? Because they say you put a perennial line in, they make sure when we first start, right, they get established, they say over 5 years, the nice one, Kentucky takes up, I just wonder if that, you know, that happened.
Take over the rye.
Yeah.
Well, I introduced the rye after it was
Right.
pretty well fully established. And so it's hard to say exactly kind of what blend I have right now. Because when I look at the lawn, I see Kentucky blue, but then I can see spots of rye that I know that's rye, because it looks different. It feels to me like it's primarily Kentucky blue. I don't know for sure, but I put hundreds of pounds of rye on the lawn. Like literally a lot of pounds of rye, and I love that grass. Would I recommend using rye, trying to establish a lawn? No, I wouldn't. I was trying to talk Ryan Norton into only doing Kentucky blue. He wouldn't listen to me because he's like, you know, I'm too impatient. I said, just do it. You know, only do Kentucky blue, because that is the elite of grass, really. And so with a Kentucky blue, you could always put rye in later. It's easy to add rye to your lawn, but getting rid of it pretty much takes glyphosate. So start with Kentucky blue, and then if you want to, just add it. Easy. So if you're starting your lawn from scratch, or you're going to do a renovation, I say just only do Kentucky blue. Maybe do several varieties of Kentucky blue. So, anyways, what do you?
I like doing just a lot, hobbyist, I guess. I start finding lawn machinery is extremely hard or expensive for just an average guy. Is there two things, I guess, maintenance for like blade sharpening and wheel mower, right? Is there a form for that, or do you have a way of doing it yourself? And then also how to find that equipment for somebody like us that isn't mowing all the time. We're big, big pieces of grass.
So like a cylinder mower?
No, real. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I talked to a few people. They buy an old golf course mower. I've called around and haven't really had any luck in this area. I've tried Googling it, finding people from different parts of the country, but it doesn't really, it's still really expensive. So I ended up like a California trimmer, but I'm interested in moving to more like
So you have a California trimmer?
Yeah.
That's a good mower.
It is. That's easy to use. I don't know where to take it for like blade sharpening. Maybe call a landscaper that.
So the guy that I used to sharpen my blades,
Yeah.
I found him and he didn't want to talk to me at first.
Right.
Like he didn't, he's like, well, I only deal with golf courses
Can you blame
and I'm not doing the homeowner market. I don't want to sharpen your mower.
And that's the feedback I get.
Yeah, that's what he said. I said, just please do it. I promise I'll pay you. He got burned by some homeowners that didn't pay him. And so he's like, I'm done with homeowners. I'm not doing homeowners anymore. They didn't pay me. I said, dude, I'll pay you. I'm not scared to pay you. I will pay you. Even if it's overcharged. Sometimes I feel like some of the things he does are a little bit more. And so I take it to him, and then I asked him, somebody asked me for a reference to him, and I asked him, I said, well, do you want to take on more clients? And he told me no. It's like, I can't take on any more clients. So I have another couple of options around here, if you, I'll tell you after who they are. But, trying to find equipment, where do you buy this kind of equipment?
Options.
You just eBay, and I found both of my mowers on KSL classifieds. I was a crazy freak man about checking KSL classifieds in the mower section every day, every 5 minutes, for like several years. I don't do it that much anymore, because I found a mower I like, and I really like it. But I got a screaming deal on that mower that I have, and I got an okay deal on the one that I was having Brett use, or letting him borrow. But, so there's online auctions that pop up about every 3 months or 2 or 3 months.
That's where I bought my
But they're
John Deere.
primarily on the East Coast in Georgia. So it becomes a little bit expensive to try to ship it all the way this far out to the west. So I would say just keep checking KSL over and over until you see one. I started out from the plant, and you know, it was a piece of crap. The bed knife was terrible. There was no, it wasn't even making contact. It was a terrible. Yeah. It cut out okay, and it looked good. But then once I got the good mower, then you know, the plant I threw out, and I sold it for $50. It was a junk. So online auctions for sure. There is a guy in California that I do know that buys stuff surplus from the auctions, and he's a reseller. And so I can hook you up with him if you're for really interested. I don't want to give that guy's info to everybody because he'll just be bombarded with everybody's questions, and if he's not getting sales, he's going to be pissed at me. So, yeah, you just got to keep looking. That slice seeder, I found that on KSL. You know, I found that on KSL. That thing cost $800. It was quite expensive for that thing. I told my wife it was like, you know, it was lower. She's not out there, she's pissed. That was $300. I'm like, well, a little more. So do I spend a lot of money on my run? Yeah, a little bit. But I love it. It's my hobby. It's my passion. It's what I want to do. It's where I want to spend money. And I like it. So who cares? You know what I mean? Do I spend a lot more money on fertilizers and these N-ext that, you know, probably. I probably put more nitrogen down than I should, you know. And so, you know, do I believe in humic acid? Absolutely. I've been putting humic acid, the stuff from IFA, I've been putting that stuff on my lawn for years before I even heard of the N-ext products or any of the liquid stuff. And I knew that it was a good product, but the data, I don't care about the data. I just put it down because I trust the people that are in the know. So.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
As someone who's starting their own channel, a new creator, what are some things, and I guess this is open up to all of you guys,
Even Jeremy.
Even Jeremy.
I feel like it's ostracized over here.
I saw
Hey,
it. I just
hey,
behind the camera.
Don't forget Jeremy's still over here.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of love over there.
Jeremy.
His channel has it going, so if you can't see on my channel, I apologize. Connor is live streaming. He can't hear me because I'm behind the mic. So, go ahead. Sorry. That's not ostracized now. Bye, guys. On Connor's show.
Yeah. Jeremy, you can answer too if you want.
I don't even know if it's working or not.
I haven't seen the complaints like it was on mine. I was trying to filter your feed, and you have.
So you want to know about...
So, as a new creator, I just started 3 months ago. Of course, getting started is sometimes a slow roll. I feel like it's going really well right now, but I'm curious to know what you guys have learned that you wish you would have known when you started that you know now, things that really would help out for new creators to establish their channels.
I guess I can go ahead and fill that in first. At the beginning of the year, I really didn't expect, just like Connor said, I didn't expect any kind of love. I didn't expect any kind of results or anything from this. I actually started because I started really hard last year. I put it in, I done it all myself. And then meanwhile, I typed a guy, how can you do it? I'm going to do it. I'm cheap. Let's just say it, let's be honest. We'll spend it on what we see what we want to spend it on. And so that's what I want to do. So then moving forward, I realized that people started watching my videos. So when I started watching and paying attention to it, one of the things as a creator, the thing that I really express is that you need to see what your motivation is in the lawn care community and kind of focus in and niche in on what you like and what you want to be known for. I got a lot of early kind of recognition because I found out about N-ext products. I hear out the N-ext products when the first shipments that came out. I threw the N-ext products down on my lawn with more organized. And it was able to take off because of the
Tell them to
N-ext
come to
name.
my stream.
I was able to have that because I focused in on keywords. Keywords is one of the biggest things when you're a creator on focusing on, because when people search for you, that's what they're going to find, is a keyword. And so if you learn how to keyword rank yourself, it goes a long way. It really steps up the game. Then once you get a lot more subscribers and stuff, and then it's more about what those types of things. It's good to have those at the beginning, but to get the views and everything, you definitely want to be on the front side of the keywords, on the knowing what your audiences are looking for. That's kind of still where I'm at. I'm still in that niche because I have 1,400 subscribers. Love every one of them. I would give them all a shout out. I would give my video a lot longer than I just put out. But on that fact, it's trying to niche in and find what they're looking for and have that residual views. It's called having a green view. Something you're always going to grab hits on. I have a couple of videos that are just slowly going, but over time they have 17,000 views. And it's one of those things you just find out what the viewers are looking for, you just name it, and then you just move yourself in. Like Connor, he can start a live stream, and I'm back there watching it. I'm like, guys, I have 20 viewers watching. Yes, it's exciting. And then he starts it, and I swear as soon as he presses play, there's 35, and I look at it again, he's over 100. So it's that initial part you just have to ask. And it's just that, it's kind of finding what your audience is looking for. And that's what I really see.
So I'd say really the hardest part with YouTube, I guess for me, was just kind of getting over that initial hump, like you said. Like I went from 0 to 1,000 subscribers. It took like 6 or 8 or 10 months, a long time. But you know, when spring hit, that's when my subscribers kind of really took off. And I don't know why that was the case. I'm assuming it's because people had grass on the brain. But like Jeremy said, just, you know, the keywords are key. Try to figure out what people are trying to search for and make a video about that. You know, do I make videos about, do I actively try to make videos to target certain topics? Not really. I just kind of am filming what I'm doing. But I guess the main thing that I can say is that just be yourself. Like, don't try to put on an act. Don't be scripted. Just be who you are. And in the beginning of some of my videos, I was camera shy. But after a while, I just said, screw that. Go for it. And I'm just going to open up and tear down that wall. And, you know, some people have said, you know, this guy's ridiculous, and maybe I am, but at the same time, I don't care. I'm just going to be who I am. If you guys want to watch it, it's going to be cool. If not, and at the same time, like, my lawn is unique. So I think that kind of helps a little bit with me because it's so unique. It's very unique, and nobody's really doing it. And I'm sure there's a lot of people doing it, but nobody that's really kind of showing it. So I guess one thing that I can say as well is, you know, make the video short and sweet. Make them like short. If you see some of my early videos, they're all short. 2 and 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I did not make them over 5 minutes because it's just, and people complain, make longer videos, but I wanted people to click and then look for more, and then click again, and then be hungry for more.
Yeah.
Keep clicking and be hungry for more.
Yeah, you've got to break things into parts for sure. I wanted to talk a lot in the beginning because I'm a one-take person.
We don't believe that.
And I don't, you know, the editing part, all that stuff, like what these guys do, I don't have the patience for it. Give me a camera, I don't got to drive. Hey, I'm going to talk about it. For me, my audience are my customers. I'm not like searching for, you know, a wider spread. I'm just trying to give the information to the people who are on it right now who want, you know, to know, like, oh, I want to know, why is this working? Why is this happening? Like, okay, so here's the thing. So what's interesting is these guys open themselves up to a hell of a lot of criticism, which I don't, because I'm not like Jared hit with the video this year on crabgrass because he tagged it right. It was information about how to do this, and this. What's that do?
650,000.
Huge amount of views. That one just went nuts, and his audience just went boom. Oh, look at this guy, he's talking about stuff. It's problem solving, right? And you keyed in on it, and you went straight out. It's a long video too. It's like 17 minutes.
I think that one was around 12.
12. Okay, so you know it was a good length of time, but it had all these cuts, and it was showing all this stuff. And look, he took a lot of time on it. It was really good. And I just don't have that. He's probably had, I don't know, on the negative people. You know, so you have to open yourself up to the criticism too.
I wish you do, Connor.
Yeah, and it's okay, right? Like you have to take that. You have to have that piece because you'll show up in a feed on somebody else's thing. And they're like, well, I don't like this guy at all. He's got a weird nose. You know, I'm like, man, I don't like your nose. Whatever it is. And yeah, he's heard that. So kind of that's it. You know, be yourself. Don't try to be any of the other guys that are on. You don't need to like copy content. If you want to work in your yard, and work in your yard. You know, it's like here's what it's going to be. If it's a car or whatever. If you just want to be a guy who has a camera in front of him, you can do that. You'll find an audience or you won't. It's not going to ruin your life. You didn't have one before. So I mean, don't let it ever bother you. Just you know, if you want to be a creator, you want to create, then create. It's yours. It's nobody else's. Forget about the
Just be yourself.
Yeah. So, simple.
I love the trolls.
Yeah.
Every time I get a thumbs
That's because you look like a troll.
yes, that video sucked. Yeah. I mean, in all fairness, the trolls, the haters are always going to show up.
Yeah.
That's what kind of drives me. I get excited because, you know, I'm a pretty likable guy. I've only met like a handful of people that I can't get to be friends with me. But what I found is you get put into certain stigmas, and it doesn't matter. Don't lose sleep over that.
Nah.
You know, I can't grow up mustache like Connor here. I'm just jealous.
I almost got it on the show.
I was twice in a mustache.
Yeah.
Not cut. That was a thumbs down. I'm sorry.
So you're the one that thumbed me down?
You didn't even know there was a two thumbs down button.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go thumbs down. It's coming back. Once it's back, I'll be like,
But yeah, I think it's pretty cool. You know, again, everybody kind of has their own info to offer. You know, and so much is just opinion, and that's what kind of cracks me up about this whole like the grass YouTube community. Is most of the guys are just like, here's what I do, and you know, I don't really care. I don't care. It's like that's what I'm gonna do, and that's fine. And that's why people are like, you can't do that. You can't do this. You can't. It's like, sure I can. I just did it.
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly what I'm all about. Is yes, I can do it.
And
Watch
I just
me.
did. Yeah.
Watch me do it. If you tell me no, I'm gonna do it even more.
Connor, that's why I subscribe to your channel, actually.
Yeah, it's just I want to prove people wrong.
Well, I can't tell you how many times somebody has told me that you can't do that, and then I read the book and it's like,
Of course you can.
you need to do that.
Yeah, well, okay, further. Every single person who's working in the yard, you are a grown-ass person, make your own decisions. Just do it. You know what, if you screw it up, it's your own damn fault. It is. Own that. Like, yep, I shouldn't have done that. But I'm still not listening to that one guy. Like
That guy, right there.
Whatever it is, you just do it. If you're gonna be, if you're gonna experiment on your own property, that's one thing. If you're doing it with hundreds or thousands of lawn care customers, that's dangerous.
Yes.
That's how I started.
Absolutely.
That's what I did. Every customer of mine was an experiment, and I grew like crazy because it worked. Imagine if it didn't. It would have been terrible. But when I started, when I was spraying lawns, every single person I was just like, I'm gonna put this in here. That looked great. What did I do? Oh, that's right. Now I need to start writing things down. Okay, now we do that again and just duplicate it. And the beauty was, since I had my own spray service, I had a massive ability to replicate everything I was doing, which is what took it from a small spray service to a larger one, and then spreading out to the rest of the country. And that was it. But super dangerous, And same thing. Everybody told me like, you can't do that. It's not gonna work. You can't do that. I'm like, well, I guess we'll find out. Research.
That's funny, because I went through a similar path. I was a little bit opposite though. I do all the testing on my own lawn at home. And I got to the point where some of the customers were figuring out where I lived. And they looked at my lawn and half of it was dead and half of it was like having a leaf spot and fungus. And I started laughing because I had a customer call and cancel. And I was like, what's going on? He said, well, your lawn looks like garbage. So I was like, well,
I have no time.
okay, can you do me a favor and come back in 5 weeks? Give it 5 weeks. They said, okay, I'll do that. So I broke out the thatch rake. I
And
got
the- and
all
the soil
mulch
pro.
out, or the power. I got the thatch rake, the power rake, and I got all the mulch out. And I was testing to see if it was really a weed barrier. Because everyone was like, "Oh, you go to mulch, you go to mulch, you go to mulch." And I said, "Well, that's great." Yeah, yeah. Okay. That was the one that I took you to, and you're like, "What's wrong with your lawn?" And don't worry about it. That's how I came up with the concept of what's wrong with my lawn. You know?
Look at that. How it was born.
So I pulled it all out, and I was laughing because there was almost 900 gallons of dead grass that I pulled out.
I thought that was just your front yard.
That was my front.
Yeah, that was the front, yeah.
3,000 square feet.
That's this thing.
3,000 square feet. I had to ride on the mower. And I really need to post the picture so you guys can see it. And it was tiled. And it looked so bad after I got done. And then my neighbors were like, "Oh my gosh, what did you do?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it. Just give it some time." And then all of a sudden, 3 weeks later, it's 50% better, 6 weeks better home start.
And that was the summer, that was midsummer.
Yeah, John saw the whole process because
Yeah.
he couldn't believe it. And I said,
So
the nutrients aren't pretty.
Yeah.
And everybody keeps saying, "Hey, you gotta mulch, you gotta mulch, you gotta mulch." Well, there's a difference between mulching at 1 to 2 inches versus a quarter of an inch when you get it really down that low. You know, when you get that mulch really fine, you can't see it coming out behind the mower. Yeah, you're putting nitrogen back in, you're putting all that source back in. It's really, really good for the lawn. But yeah, 6 week better home garden. Try it.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, that was,
Good stuff.
it was a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yep.
It was.
Yes, sir.
I got a question about, since I like to try to do what Connor's doing with his yard, and the one thing you kind of caught me off guard was how much you were watering your yard. And since I'm not here, West Jordan, I guess you use culinary water, and I was kind of like, holy crap, I have a well. You have a well, and so I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do, in my place, and this last year I was paying probably $200-300 for water.
Wow.
And so I'm actually developing my own.
How many square feet?
I'll get 7,000.
That's a little high.
Yeah. And how low do you cut it?
Right now I'm only about 1.5 inches.
Yeah. There's but you want to go lower.
Well, yeah, I would go low. So what I'm doing, I'm an engineer profession, and I've actually got into develop a lot of controls for robotics, the company I work for. So I've developed a system where everything, my control boxes, everything is wireless. So I have no wires in my control boxes there. I use the round shield back plane.
This is my nemesis.
And I'm using there, and I have a PLC, but I'm actually wireless controlling all my valves.
Okay.
And I can actually control each one independently. And so, everybody thinks, well, how do you get things going? I have battery operated units in each box that controls the valve wirelessly. So I'm getting better, more efficient to control the water pattern. And maybe in the summer, when I know that John Connor was, having this great yard, I never get pounded with heat. And I said, hey, you told me, you say, cool it down. In the summer, when it's really hot, like around 3 o'clock, 5 minutes, spray it down. Get the temperature drop so it doesn't get so stressed.
That was Jeremy.
Maybe it was.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know about irrigation.
So my concern was since the government came out with this whole thing about the water, and I want to be great. And if, well, I want to be, there's a little, your yard's so green, everybody else is struggling, you're not doing your job. I got hell for it.
Yes.
And I got told, I said, wait a minute here. I put a lot more time into it, and people were coming after me. My neighbors say, we're struggling with water here, and your yard's green, you should be yellow. And I'm going, no, I'm paying for it. And so there's this big argument I have with my neighbors.
Can I science that a little bit? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is that all right for a second?
Okay, here we go.
So, couple things. You can have short grass, but that's high maintenance. Everybody knows that. He knows that. He likes that. Not everybody likes that, right? Golf courses require a ton of water to maintain that mow height. Ton of water. And you look on greens on hot days, they will run the sprinklers for a second. And sometimes on hot days, you eliminate like hot spots. That's basically what they're doing. You're trying to keep everything cool. And that's sand, that's going to heat up more. But their roots, mid grass and things like that, kind of 3 feet.
It's going to heat up more.
In sand, yes. Sand is going to heat up more at that height, absolutely. More than you're going to get off of topsoil, like a nurtured topsoil. Because it's so much more heat, conductive. Okay, like walk across the beach when the sun's on versus walk across the field, it's just bare soil. You can get across one easier than the other. Okay, so it's getting more easy. You have to get more water. If you focus on the building up of your soil structure, the soil humus, really driving the roots, the soil humus is what's going to be in your soil. The more organic matter you have in there, the cooler it will stay. Okay, so if we can increase organic matter from, if you've done a soil test, yeah, that's fine. But if you test what your organic matter is on a nice clean soil test, and we start to work to improve that organic matter, you will keep the grass cooler, your disease resistance will go way up, your watering needs will go way down because you now have a sponge to work with, which is what you're going for. So, in clay is going to hold more water longer, but it's also going to take longer to get in there. So you have to slowly build that up. It's the wet sponge, dry sponge. If you have a slightly moist sponge, you put it under a faucet, water will flow into it. If it's dry and you set it in a faucet, it will be off. Okay? So you have to think about your lawn in the same way. And it's all controlled by that clay content and organic matter content. Otherwise, you're getting higher flow through. So what side of the valley? Westward. Yeah, so depending on, and it could be very tight, right? Like we did in some places around here where we got sand. I mean, it's sandy, there is sand. Like it's sandy, you can find that over there. It's like there's places where you start getting into different soil structures and you just need to, you get your soil probe out and see what you got in there. And you can see where your moisture is. So you can sink the thing down into the ground and you can feel moisture. It starts to get crumbly down as you're getting in there. There's not enough water. It's staying too much on the surface. You need to fill the pan, right? And as you do that, and the water starts to go back down like this, the roots will chase it. The more roots that we can get dying back down here, the higher the organic matter and all of your microbial life will digest that up and create more soil humus. It's not that difficult, but if you're going to mow grass really short and stress it out, you're going to have to take time where you're not pounding it with water so that you can drive the roots down. Because every time you cut it, that grass is going to be under stress. So once you train it, it gets easier. He's still going to use a ton of water. More than if a guy just let it, grow up and shape itself. So it just depends on what you're going for. I mean, I've never gone over my allotment, whatever my key on my water is, because I don't start until it's like really turning brown. It might be June, so I don't even start watering, and then I just water it heavy a few times a week, and then I can go further apart and just hold it. But if that's what you're up to, I'm going to cut mine all down, I'll just do it just to see what he's doing, and then run a different program. But then I do everything completely opposite of normal also. No nitrogen, no nothing. I mean, I'm just letting that stuff cycle, but the roots are like 2 feet long now. They just go down and drive them through the rocks. So, yeah.
How do you get 2 feet?
It's not that hard. All you have to do is throw out every pattern you've ever thought was the way you're supposed to do. Just throw out patterns. If you're watering every other day for 15 minutes, you'll never get down there. You will train your grass just like a puppy. It'll show up expecting food and expecting water at the same time. And when you change that, it stresses out. It goes into survival mode. When you want to drive it, like it's survival of this. So if you're going to really speak out, stress it out. Stress it out, lower its needs, and then when you give it the right food, it doesn't take as much. So my soil at my house now is a 5.1 organic matter. That's really good. Like great content, huge mineralization, and I'm hardly feeding it. But now I can go get it with nitrogen. If I wanted to throw a pound at it, that I could feed that for like 2 years. Because there's so much in it. And I still have to mow it like, a regular guy, I just let it get taller and then I do it less often because it's not going to grow like that. But if I wanted to maintain this like mow height, I'd be out there twice a week because I don't want it to ever get too tall. That's just the way it is. And if you love your lawn,
every other day,
then do it.
That's how John got so tall.
Yeah, I do. I stress myself out. These questions.
He's sipping on 1801.
I've had my fair share. I'm not back. Yes.
John, the last couple times that I've used the microgreen,
Yes.
I've found that it's not working really well with the dial-in spray.
Like too thick.
It is really thick.
Yeah.
And I've taken the time to dilute it and really like agitate it so that the water's really getting in there and diluting it really well. And I went to try and even spray it yesterday, and nothing came.
Is it pouring from your bottle?
Yeah, it comes out the sides a little bit.
No, I mean, but it pours.
Yeah, of course.
It doesn't seem thick or anything.
No, it's definitely soupy.
It's, okay, so it's.
Well, it's not
yeah,
thick soupy, but it's
yeah.
thin soupy.
How long have you had it?
I got it like 3 or 4 months ago.
Okay. So sometimes, depending, in heat and, you know, just sitting, it will start to kind of thicken up, especially if you fraction and polymerizes a little bit, it kind of gets thicker. That stuff continues to age and get better. Make sure you clean that thing out really well. That's usually the problem, is stuff gets stuck somewhere in the straw, like any particles or anything like that. Make sure you get rid of the filter that's on there, don't use that, and then just, you know, you can take that bottle and mix it 50-50 with water too, in the bottle, pour it out. But there is a lot of material in that product. It's pretty robust, and yeah, make sure you seal the lid tight too, because it will actually evaporate some of the moisture. That's not really what you can do with it. So
Is there a ozone sprayer that you recommend for
I think that's
or a dial-in spray?
freaking Miracle-Gro one is like the worst the best. I don't like the Chameleon. I thought I would. I think that thing is garbage. Honestly, the cheapest one you can find is usually the best. Those Gilmore ones that have like that steel sprayer on them that are like from the 70s, those things are awesome. Like, it doesn't pull anything up. But we had about, I don't know, 1,000 ozone sprayers in my plant. I bought them. Somebody was clearancing them out of some supply company, so I bought a ton of them. They have no dial. They just have them off. Awesome. No clogging, no ever issues with those things. But the problem was they were like 26.5 ounces. It was a random number. And, you know, and that's why they were 70 cents a piece. Like, nobody's going to buy these. It's not, what's a quart? This plus what's on the floor. So, I still have those things, but just crack that thing and it sprays. And, you know, set it to wide open.
Just
And
go
that's what
for
I like to do is I just all the way crank that thing up and just spray out. Just go, you know, run. Good luck. I'm not gonna, it's so fast! But, yeah, it's really, that's all you can do. Open it up all the way.
Just careful with your storage temperature too. So
Yeah, I keep it in the garage,
yeah,
so it's
that's a bad idea.
Okay.
During the summer. So the cooler you can keep it, the less the enzymes kind of break down and kind of pull together.
yeah. So more inside like room temperature.
Yeah, we went through that with some of our facilities where we store the good stuff for the lawns, and we had to get a massive mixer, and every morning we were having to go through it because it was getting too warm and everything was pulling together.
I've got a question from Paul, from Paul's Prime Cuts.
Paul
For-
Outlaw, how you doing, buddy?
For Connor, he says, Connor, I would like to start real mowing my facial hair. How should I get it started?
How soon?
How should he do it?
You should offer to go over there and just take care of that
Just go for it. Hope for the best.
for you. Just lay down.
Throw her down.
Yeah, anybody else have? Yes?
So I live out of Kaysville, and I've got like high clay. Is just pounding it with aerate, like 9 ounces to the 1,000, is that
That's gonna
solve
help.
some of that issue? Or?
Yeah, what I would recommend, if you do get a chance, I think that you should test to see what you have up there as far as saturations for calcium and magnesium. It'd be good to know the CDCs, because that may be a case where, depending on pH values, we might want to apply something else, a calcium product of some kind. So it all just depends on what your overall pH is and where saturations are, because that'll open up your soil significantly. And if there's one thing I can tell everybody, never let your soil get dry. Never. Never, never, never. Everything gets lost. It's the microbial activity ceases, your water barrier is gone, that means nutrients can't transfer through roots. That is the worst thing. Okay, so make sure you maintain some level of moist lawn. And especially if you're dealing with heavy clay, like I said, it takes a lot more for stuff to get in there, but once it's there, it is there. So you can really do well with clay and just let it work its magic. But I would test that first. Traditionally, even in the clay soils here, we're going to be higher pH. Gypsum is going to be the answer in most cases. And if your calcium is already high and it's something else, then we might not be looking at that. We may be looking at pure sulfur and using those sulfated materials. But the aerate, what's cool about that is its high potassium level and how caustic it is. It will break out and release more calcium up into the plant, which affects the pH, and that's why a lot of people see bigger green out, because more nutrients are able to flood through and get into the plant. Okay. So, yeah, but it'd be good to know. I mean, I've been answering soil test questions now for, I don't know, 2-3 weeks. I don't know, probably done 1,000. Just going through people's stuff and saying, so I need to do it, this is how many pounds of this, and go forth.
Okay.
So, send it over. Yeah.
If you guys don't mind, I'd like to open it up for anybody that's watching on the creator channels. I know that Connor has quite a few that are subscribed on here. Mine's having problems, so I'm down to only a few that are left. Brett, I don't know how many we're having.
I had 8.
Sweet. Eight. So, those of you that are on the creator channels, if you filled the questions from anybody, let us know who you're reading. I don't know if anybody's still watching. A couple of you were watching. Anybody watching? Anybody still? Connor? Mine? Probably not mine, Connor's. If you guys want to toss some questions out to us so that we can fill those, and then we'll just, after that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
Yeah.
So that we can just go ahead and chat and talk amongst us and finish up our bagels and stuff. So,
by the way, everybody is taking these home, so there'll be bags out there, so you guys have to take this
So
stuff
somebody
home.
wants to
I already
know
paid
about
for it.
dog pee spot prevention, not recommendation.
Get rid of the dog.
Yes.
teach him to pee on the face. Your face said it all.
Any advice on centipede?
Don't do anything to it. If you stare at it too hard, it'll die. Honestly, what we've seen, especially in Georgia, where there's a lot of centipede, the lower the nutrient program and the more soil amendments, because most of the time it's growing on clay, wherever it is growing, you don't have to give it much. It doesn't require much nitrogen. Most of the guys that I've had run, they're running like 3/4 of a pound a year, because you don't want to push it. So keep it low as far as your inputs, and feed the humates, feed the biostims, use iron in the summer, it'll keep it nice and green. That's all we got. Nothing. Centipede, cakewalk. We should all be so lucky.
Any other questions for you guys, from you guys?
I have a question for Ginja, actually.
Yeah, what's up?
Because you're all quiet. So, I think it was a couple of years ago, I had little mice that were coming in underneath the roots, because they were sweetened. So one of the things that they said was to put down, NPK, and then it turns into bitter, so they go away. Well, you were kind of a little unique because you do Pest and on. So when you start to use these nutrients like RDS and such, do you also see that there's a kind of influx of critters because they're attracted to the sweet grass now, or is it really not much of an issue at all in this area?
Man, I mean, to be honest with you, it sounds a little bit like a misnomer to me. That like people are grasping at straws. The voles are in a couple different categories. You get the voles in Colorado that primarily go after the roots of trees. They don't like the taste of the trees here, so they go after the grass. So about the only thing that I've really been able to do is amend the taste of the grass by using castor oil, a little bit of garlic and peppers, and make like a vampire mixture and put that out, right? But even that, I mean, it takes
You're just going to have to deal with the fineness. That's why it works so well.
to have that happen.
You could see if you can solubilize
I mean,
it, put
there's
it into a
yes and
sprayer
no.
and use it that
I
way.
mean, voles are going to go after.
There you go.
After, and yeah, I mean, if you amend the soil and get the roots pulling out exactly how they like to taste it, they're going to do it. But mice are also colony pests, so they're going to congregate. And so you get these voles that really just pull together, and it ends up becoming a bigger problem. So trapping and baiting, in my experience, is the best thing that you can do. And once you get through that, they're not around, they go through your stuff.
Yeah.
So the inclusion of making your root system better and grass and greener, it's all super pretty. It doesn't also make the wolves want to move into your.
I have never seen that correlation.
Okay, cool, good. That was just.
That's a great question. I actually think, from some of the stuff I've seen in the past and looking at influx of pests, there's usually sort of common elements. And most of the time, diseases come from overfeeding, because you're stressing out a plant so much that you kind of get a warped cell, and grass stretches a lot. So there's a lot more moisture, and if you have tons of nitrogen going down, you also have a higher protein content in some cases, especially in grass. I've done a lot with like food plots, alfalfa, soybean, and growing for meal and for all kinds of different stuff, because we wanted to increase the nutritional value. And there's certain steps to do that. Grass actually does have a similar effect. And one thing that I noticed about my house is I get deer jumping my fence to come eat my grass, which I don't see in anybody else's yard. Like they're either on native stuff or they're laying in my backyard. It's a great picture of the fox laying up there just chilling, like this is great. So there is a correlation on the feed side, but like Jared said, a lot of the time you're just you're in an area where the constant housing development is just encroaching on the habitat, and so they're just kind of working their way back into food, easy food. And it really wouldn't matter if the grass was in good shape or bad, but it tends to be that I think if you leave stuff more natural, you get more grass eating pests, when you don't do anything. It's just stressed out, because that's like a signal, to everybody that the grass is weak and stuff can come in and start eating it. So,
Matt wants you to talk about the amino acids.
Yeah, he does, I think.
That subject's only 300 pages long.
Yeah, right. He's teasing right now. He is. Yeah, he's being jocular. There is some stuff floating about amino acids out that's starting to kind of. I don't know if I would even say it's working mainstream, but just there's a lot of misinformation going on right now, and plants produce their own amino acids as part of plant life, as part of what we're all made of. It's just, this is just something that happens. We haven't really seen enough of a correlation between adding amino acids and what plants can do, because plants regulate themselves. So, it just kind of goes and breaks down and becomes soil food. And I guess any soil food you give is fine, as long as it's, not over the top. But I know he was just messing right there. So there you go.
Just wants to know about hay.
Yeah. Yes.
So every single time, every single time. So how many times a year do you use soil studies?
Do I? Never.
What?
Never. Personally, I never do. I just did one to show, because I treat everything as an entire system all the time. So if somebody were to just ask and say, what's a roadmap I want to have, I can pull up 1,000 soil tests and just say, okay, so here's all of these different things. And I'm only looking at these couple of items so that I can give you a roadmap in. Because for the common homeowner doing your own thing, you just want to grab something and put it out, right? So a lot of the stuff I share goes well beyond that, and the things that you I don't even know if you need to consider. But as long as you're feeding the soil, okay, and that's your primary concern, I'm going to feed the soil. If I feed the soil, the grass is going to do everything, okay? And so you have to have all of these components. It's not just a bone broth. I mean, you're talking about a whole stew. So we want to create an entire meal for the soil, and then there's easy solubles that the plants will take up as part of that program. So my whole program is there's so much to go to the soil, and a little bit that is actually targeted to the plant to give a person an initial response. The rest of it is just coming from the soil formation. So I don't soil test. I'm going to again in the spring, because I'm going along with this thing so that people can see, here's what's happening on my own ground as I go through stuff. But unless it was agriculture, that I would test all the time. But once your lawn's on cruise control, why would you keep doing it? That's just throwing money, why not? Now I have a soil test, and I'm going to put it over here on this fire. Next.
I get really bad dry spots. I do side lawn as well. I also have a client that has
center of the lawn is, I can stick in the edge of the lawn, I can stick a screwdriver that far in the center, I can stick it that far.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens right about mid-summer.
Yeah, our sprinkler covers. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really all there's to it. In that case, you know, how long has the house been in? Well, long time, is it an older property, is it newer?
Just had it, it's about 6 months.
But the home itself, you know, is it older, is it newer?
Newer.
Okay. One thing that has happened, it happened a long time ago in the original housing booms, it kind of stopped. When irrigation was put in, it was a four corners irrigation. And little attention was paid to true head-to-head coverage. Okay, so oftentimes you can get a lawn that's a square and you just there's just stuff around the perimeter and there's nothing that runs in the lines. So you're not getting good cross-patterned everything. So even though the entire thing is getting, you know, water like this, it's just getting the tips and no real crossing. So it gets half the water the rest of the lawn does. That's really all it is. So most of the time it's simply a coverage issue and that's it. And if, you know, they're maladjusted, if there's a sprinkler dead center of that thing, you know, then you're still, something's not reaching it, and that thing is overspraying. There's ways to look at it. I'll tell you what, one of the biggest problems in irrigation anymore with that many houses being built is if you look at something during the day, the pressure on that thing is totally different when everybody else is running theirs. And you don't get the same coverage. It might look great when you're the only sprinkler running, but when there's 40 of them on the street at the same time, it's a totally different story. So, that's all. Yeah, it happens. I mean, on a well, you're never going to see this, but in neighborhoods, if you're part of culinary water, it happens all the time. When I was in Reno, there were so many houses being built up this hill. The older ones that were at the bottom used to have this pressure blowing out valves all the time because it was just huge amounts of pressure, and it just kept getting lower and lower and lower. And they're wondering why the lawns were dying. And it's just because there kept being more water in the system, just taxing more. So, yeah, that's all. Yeah.
All right, I had a question from a viewer. It said, can you ask Ginja to explain his results with the Lebanon turf roots mycorrhiza and how he liked it?
Whew. Yeah, that's a big question. So it's interesting because we're talking about dry spots and lawn, right? So what happens, I mean, I can ask everybody here, what happens when you get that ring of dryness? Anybody tell me? Right, everything's looking dead. And the one thing about it is you have to pump life back into it. And what's the hardest thing to do when things dry out? It's to get the life back into it, because you deal with aquaphobic situations where the water just repels. It just sits on top and it kind of runs right off. And so right now what I've done is I've taken about 3 or 4 different products that you guys have seen online, and the Lebanon turf mycorrhiza is one of them. Mycorrhiza is kind of one of those things where you do an academic article on it for, like, you know, books and books and books. They're trying to save the world with mycorrhiza right now, because what it does is I kind of explain it like the Thor's hammer and the rainbow bridge, right? The mycorrhiza takes nutrients and it pushes it through the roots, but it also stimulates the roots to get wider, bigger as well. So it creates this subway tunnel. So it also interacts with the micronutrients as well and helps get better interaction with it. So I usually carry a backpack sprayer with a little bit of calcium humic in it. I'm sure you guys have seen the Essentials 101. Sometimes we'll carry the RGS in the area as well. And just whatever I have access to at the moment. But what I notice is once I apply the mycorrhiza into the tissue, it ended up growing and coming back twice as fast, because once you have mycorrhiza there, it doesn't go away until the whole system dries out. It's a beneficial fungus. And so again, the worst thing you can do is to let it dry out. But I've had extremely good success with this. I do, oh gosh, during the hot months, probably between 6 and 12 lawn assessments a day. 90% of them are low in micronutrients, and they're also anemic, and they're aquaphobic. And so once I get that in there, my response rate's been about 90% on that Lebanon turf product. It's been a good product. They're probably asking, and correct me if I'm wrong and asking for a rebuttal on this, but I want to make sure I'm answering their question.
It's an expense though. This one little bag of mycorrhiza is $35. And I'm using about, I think it's a teaspoon and a half to a tablespoon per 1,000 square feet. And it has to be watered in pretty heavily because the mycorrhiza has to get down 2 inches to where the root development is happening. But did I answer everybody's question, or did I confuse some of you, or make sense? John, anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I think that's pretty spot on. I did testing with mycorrhiza. Dr. Amaranthus out of Mycorrhizal Applications had some pretty cool products. About 10 years ago, they had some gel encapsulated mycorrhizae we were testing with some of our starter products in agriculture, and it did work really well. Personally, I don't necessarily recommend that to a lot of people, only not because it doesn't work, but same thing. You have to get it down in the ground or it doesn't make a difference. So I love it at seeding. I love it if you're doing soil prep. I think that's a great way to go. For the standard lawn care operator, or person, I don't think you really need it. If your lawn's growing actively and you are maintaining moisture and you're not over salting the load, you'll never have a problem with your mycorrhiza being out of whack. There's enough communication.
That's a great point. One thing I want to add to it, our area specifically is low in mycorrhiza.
It is low in organic matter, and that's the thing. That's where everything is functioning, so we have to build that up. We have low OS.
So when you get to lower elevations, it's not really necessary to plug in a ton of mycorrhiza. It's already there, it's already functioning. You just really need more water and micronutrients to help balance out the fungus.
Yeah, just want to
Beneficial fungus.
All
That's
right.
a great question.
I got one more. This guy Scott asks, what is the best fertilizer to add with Milo and N-ext products, or is that enough?
Go. You want me to do that one?
Whoever. I know your philosophy.
You're probably the person to add.
Anyone else?
I have a hard time with that question because everybody's on the search for the perfect fertilizer. There's a good balanced fertilizer, but there's nothing that's perfect. And sometimes we're looking for that word perfect. I need the perfect setup. Well, March is going to be different than April, April is different than May, and so on and so forth, and it cascades. Every square inch of your lawn is going to have different microbial activity and different response rates, and you could literally put something different every square inch and then pull it all together, but it's literally impossible. So to find a good balanced fertilizer, it's good, and that's where John comes in. He's got the science to back it up.
I think here's what I would caution everybody who is using a lot of Milorganite, and it's fine, it's great because you can put it out. There's so much phosphorus in that product, and if you're putting it out at high rates, you're going to tie up your soil. You're just going to do it. If you use too much of one thing over and over and over again, something's bound to suffer. So try not to get stuck on one thing. And I've seen more. Try to balance and change. If you've been using a lot of Milorganite, and again, I've been looking at all these soil tests that people have been sending me who've been on a heavy Milorganite program for a long time. I'm actually just recommending they go out with ammonium sulfate at like low rates, like 1/4 to 1/2 pound, to balance out all of this other stuff now that's in there. Because, with biosolids, with manures, with anything, it's going to be like a nitrate compound that's carbon formed that way. It takes a long time for it to break out, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff in there. So the high rates that we're putting out, if you're putting down a full pound per 1,000 of that material, of nitrogen, man, that's a lot. That is a lot. What, like 600 pounds, I think, an acre?
Yeah, but it also robs Peter to pay Paul too. I mean, it's killing your zinc and your iron.
There's all of these other things that pull, and so you have to watch it. And manure pulls miners like crazy. So you can start seeing deficiencies across the board, and just that load of phos is going to end up being a real problem, down the road as far as stuff moving through soil and.
Maybe take a couple of years. Like you might have the best results forever, and then all of a sudden, the lawn's giving you the bird finger, and you can't figure out why.
That's right. So, I wrote an article called very varied or something like that on my blog, and that was all what it was about. It's like switching things and moving them around and never getting stuck on one particular item, because the longer you stay on one, the less, you know, you're gonna load. It's just, eventually you run into trouble. So balancing it. So again, no perfect, but just watch the volumes of stuff you're putting out.
I can kind of attest to that. As I started, I was on Milorganite last year. Coming into this year, I had the Milorganite, and then we went into that shortage that everybody knows about. And I couldn't find it. I finally found it, and a couple of times I just like, guys, I don't have Milorganite. It was sitting in my garage, and I'm throwing it out there. I'm like, hey, should I keep applying it? And of course, Connor comes in and says, yeah, I never stopped applying. But honestly, where was I going to go with that one? Yeah. And so I honestly saw the benefits of like using less and less because my lawn wasn't needing it. And coming into the end of the season, I probably haven't used Milorganite in, I don't know, it's probably been about 2.5 months now. And I'm still solid there. I know. My name's Jeremy. Hi, Jeremy.
There's nothing wrong with that product. I want to make it perfectly clear. When I'm talking about this stuff, I manufacture products. I could sit here and just talk about my stuff. I don't like to do that. There's a broad spectrum of things you can apply, and you should mix it up, and you should try new things. You see what works best on your lawn. There's no reason not to. Okay, and I'll just tell you, watch it if you're putting a lot of one thing. That's all I'm going to say. So just kind of mix it up. Make sure you're getting the good balance, and the mindset is, I'm going to build this soil up, and the more you get, the less you have to put out. It's like, the more you care for it in the beginning, the less you have to do later. And you're just investing into that bank, and it pays dividends.
I don't want to confuse everybody, but every December I start calling everybody. I say, okay, what's your projections for the next season? How much snow are we getting? How much rain are we getting? What's coming down from the sky? What elements are we going to need to counterbalance? And every year as a company, we switch things up. It's not a ton, but we do have to switch it up. We have to play a little bit of a game with this pushing.
Yeah, it's true, absolutely.
But there's a huge environmental issue. Mother Nature's going to do what she has been doing for a very, very long time. It's interesting.
And this year, just here in our area, we had a false spring in February. Got really warm, grass turned green. It started pulling. Soil life came up, and it started. Yeah, and there was already a tax on the system immediately. So we were low on snow. We didn't have the temperatures that we would normally have. So soil life stayed active longer, which meant that whatever was put out was getting used. Which meant when you started the season, you started with a deficit. And so, based on those things, that's how, I would rewrite a program and say, here's how you need to start, because we got to fill that bank right back up, and then we can get on cruise.
Yeah, we were using macros in March.
Yeah, I believe it.
Like, there's no other way to do it. So normally you come out with a pound of nitrogen and a little bit of potassium to kind of wake it up, and some humic, and you just call it good. But I mean, this last year, I was worried. I mean, we were getting 80-degree temperatures in the middle of January.
Yeah, it was bad.
And so yeah, we started putting down 2 times the micros and the micronutrients and miners in March, and it was a good gamble. I mean, our lawns look real good this year.
Yeah, I would definitely attest to. I mean, I don't really know the science behind this stuff, but changing the fertilizer all the time.
Yeah.
That is key. If you stay on one thing, just like they said, you're just going to get stuck in that one groove. I'm always changing my fertilizers all the time. I've got lots of different bags of stuff for free. They're like, oh, this is crap. I'm like, I'll take it. And just whatever it is, I'm going to down. Sometimes it's straight urea. Sometimes it's a slow release. I just barely put down that prodiamine that was because somebody gave it to me. And I have no idea what the formula was, but I'm always changing it. And sometimes I'll put down a 16. Sometimes I'll put down, ammonium sulfate. Sometimes I'll put down whatever. So, you don't want to get stuck in that groove of putting the same bag of stuff down every single time, no matter what. If it's Milorganite, if it's this, it's that. I use Milorganite. It's kind of hard to find around where we live. It doesn't really exist at Home Depot, but I don't hardly ever use it. I mean, I'll use it here and there, but for my lawn, it's expensive to use because it's You have to put a lot down, and, you know, we can't really find it, and when we do find it, it's like $15 a bag.
That takes a lot.
You
Yeah.
just have to just
He's got a lot of grass.
diversity, lots of different products. You got I put the granular humic down for my fade. I'm putting John's products down. I'm putting, you know, my urea down. I'm putting my triple 16 down.
Is he saying he pees in his
Putting
yard?
something down, you know, whether it's one thing or another, putting something
Homemade.
down at least once a month, I would say. So, always putting the products down for me. And maybe that's not the best philosophy. Maybe I'm throwing money down the tubes.
Yeah.
But
And
you know,
Yeah, that's why
It's Bear Lake. It's Bear Lake up there.
you know, maybe my stuff is, maybe I am losing money, but you know.
That's why Bear Lake's so blue.
The results are there.
keep that in mind, right? Like, and we talked on the phone about this, and I'll just keep saying it. If you want your lawn to look like a golf course, you're going to have to treat it like a superintendent. That's all there is to it. You're going to need to be on it every day. Every morning you're going to be getting out.
Every
You
day.
have to. And so if you're
lot.
committed to that, then go for it. If you're not, don't even start.
Yeah, I am looking at my lawn every day. I'm out there walking on it, touching it, feeling it, looking at it, hugging it. You know, it's only like 4 years old.
Yeah, it's a baby still.
I love
When
it.
it's a teenager, you're like,
So I know when there's problem areas quickly because I'm constantly looking at it. Do I know how much water I'm actually putting down? No, I haven't. I put the water down when it looks dry.
that's it.
No, but this is perfect though.
Yeah.
You let the lawn
Tell you
Yeah.
the story.
Exactly. And
I don't. I literally water it when it's starting to look dry.
that's it. That's what you're supposed to do. Just wait until it starts to go.
Well, the lawn's
Get out.
good. That's kind of how I came to where I am, right? I've done thousands and thousands of these lawn assessments. And the patterns that I'm noticing, you know, you get leaf spot, you get melting out. It's a byproduct of them overwatering or too much of something else. And like phosphorus. And so drawing these things back makes a big difference. But the lawn will tell you what it needs. You just have to hit the books and figure out and go, okay, it's got red thread, it's screaming for nitrogen right now. So it's interesting.
Yeah, you guys can just, if you just look, and be like, okay, yeah, I can put this out.
Look at my channel first though.
Yeah, look at Start there. But it is true, you know, it'll tell a story. The grass will tell a story. If you say in your mind, it looks dry, yeah, it probably is. Probably so. That's a good place to
Here's a
start.
question for you, John. It
Yes.
says, once you have
Piss her
once
off.
you spend years building up the soil to a healthy balance, is it possible to stop all feeding if you always mulch and maybe just fall leaves and compost?
That is a great question, and yes, you can do that. There is such a thing as a sustainable fertility program where you're not really adding things into it, but there is a lot of environmental things that go into that. So again, you're back to proper watering. If you have weird off seasons where stuff isn't decomposing properly, sometimes you need a little nitrogen to help kickstart the microbes just to get them chewing things up. So you can get very minimal on your program once you get the organic matter built up. You'll never mow as much, and you'll never have an artificial green. So I want to make sure that people understand that grass has a color on its own. What we see on lawns is a few shades darker than that because of how much we feed it. There's a natural color and then there's a fertilized color. So it's two very different things. If it's thick and it's weed free and you've got everything working properly, then it's up to you on how you want to adjust the hue of that grass, and that can come just from very minor element feeding. But yeah, you can. I mean, again, I'm 2 years in with no nitrogen on my grass right now. It's thick as hell. Still don't have any weeds. It's just going fine. I just feed it minors every now and again. I think we got a total of 3 feedings this year. It was minors and I used some aerate. Nothing else. Great, no problem. But if I wanted to juice it, I could. Especially now, the soil can do so much because of how much I built it up. Its buffer zone is huge. I mean, I could spill weed control all over that thing, and it'll just, no problem. I'm gonna try that.
So what are you building your soil up with?
So I am letting this happen naturally. Yeah, neglect, actually. I'm doing it full of neglect, not love. Those two. No, I stress it out. I stress it out as far as watering goes. I make sure that the roots are growing deep. You know, when I put the lawn in and started it out, it had RGS, it had 1801. Those were the only two things I put on it the first year, and then I dropped that all back. So it maybe had like a quarter to a half a pound total. Like I hardly put anything out there, but I gave it a little bit to establish it. Now, just because the way I water, and it's got great exposure, I'm just letting the roots go and mulching in my clippings every time, and that's it. I mean, I have an old school 1950s reel mower, and I just go across that thing. I think I do a good job, but it's enough that I have so many things like working that it's chewing through every bit of material that I put out there. It's terrible. It's rusty. It's stuff stuck in it. It's like it's just a pile of crap.
Why don't you call
I
it
neglect it.
digestion lawn?
I know, man. No, but it's
You just like to see your soil.
the neglect side of it has led to the most beautiful lawn, and it started off great. So I'm not, just kind of let it do natural stuff. Don't get in the way. Just stay out of the way. Let it grow. Yeah. I love that. So I'm actually going to take mine way down, and I'm still going to go with the minor element because of what I built up in the soil, and just run it next year. See how it goes. Might as well. It's just grass. It's just grass. Don't get it wrong.
Everybody's so scared to try something. I mean, us in this room, we're willing and we are willing to do these things, but people that are not in this room, the average Joe, they're scared.
Yeah.
They're scared to put nitrogen on the lawn. They're scared to cut it too short. They're scared to do certain things.
Do it.
You know, Alan Hay drove that home to me when I was in Florida. He's like, these people are scared. And I had no idea. But I was like, well, this stuff is easy.
Just do it.
Hard. You just have to do it. And so you burn the lawn. Who cares?
It'll grow back.
It'll grow back.
You get it back in
3 weeks or a month, it's back. You know, like people are on me all the time for, oh, you're gonna spill gas on the lawn. I spill gas on the lawn. I don't care. There's a small.
There he
Guess
is.
what? It's gonna grow back.
He's back.
3 months. It's fine.
I was concerned.
I have those big spots where I put some, stuff on there and try to kill the boat, and I've been dealing with those spots. I don't care. Oh, those are so ugly. So what?
Now what? It's grass.
It's just gonna freaking grow back. Next year they'll be gone. So there's just no need to worry and stress about, am I doing this right or wrong? Just go for it and get your feet wet. It's easy to do.
And then, I think anytime anybody criticizes you about what you're doing, you just tell them, kiss my grass.
Scoreboard.
That's it. Kiss my grass. I'm going to do it the way I'm going to do it. It's going to grow. I think that's going to be the continual hashtag here for the next while. Is kiss my grass.
It's easy. Grass is easy, especially in our environment. Maybe you went down south. I don't know what warm season grasses are like, but for here, for us, Kentucky bluegrass, it's simple.
It just grows.
Just feed it, and it'll knit together. Maybe fescue or rye is not going to knit together, but bluegrass, you can get that stuff to thicken up over a season easily with just feeding it. Spoon feeding it if it's thin.
That's right, and you know what? It'll go drought dormant. You go out of town for 2 weeks and forget to water. You come back, you have a dead lawn. You start watering it that night heavy. It will start turning green the next day.
Yeah.
It is so hardy and just easy to bring back. You stress the crap out of it. It comes back. It's easy.
Yeah, there's just no stress, and people are so worried. You can't do this. Well, why not? Just do it.
Just do it.
It's very resilient in our area. As long as it gets water, it's gonna go.
I'm being a little controversial though, because I feel like Kentucky bluegrass is like that girlfriend, it's like you want it, and then you get her, and then it's like, oh crap, I gotta feed her.
Stuff. Weird thing to say.
But it is. It is true though. But no, it is true. The rising out of tendencies of the bluegrass. You beat it up pretty good, it'll come back. But it does take a little bit to hold it into the balance. But once you get it there, then you're
Coast it. Yeah.
It?
Is that it? Yeah. What do you got? Anything else? Yes. Yes, sir.
I bought some of your product through Jeremy, and I did a few lawns. Some lawns would get stunted or something,
Yep, aerate.
What was the last mix, Jeremy?
After the aerate, so it was the RGX in charge.
In charge, yeah. And it's just a quick load, and that's sort of a slow to turn. That liquid is an easy 60-day feeder. It kind of has a slow up into where it goes, and then it just sort of takes off. But the aerate can stop in the beginning because of the K levels, and it kind of dries stuff out, and then it flushes out after that. It might have actually, if you did that beforehand, it probably had some interaction with flushing that potassium.
But other lawns, same street, same neighborhood, would take off, like green within days.
Yeah.
Others with 2 or 3 weeks.
There you go. That's like what he was saying.
Every lawn is different.
Yeah. And honestly, it's watering, soil composition. What's been in there before can affect what goes down. That happens a lot in the pro side where somebody goes and fixes a lawn with, some chelated miners, and it does awesome, and then they put it in their whole program, and 30% of the lawns respond, 70 don't. It's because 70 didn't have a deficiency. So that can be part of it. There's just different things. And sometimes if it's so deficient and you put something on, there is a little bit of a stunt factor, like, okay, I gotta process this, I haven't had it, and then everything pops out. So
Is there a way to determine that, what to expect?
Nope. What I tell people is you'll put it out and something will happen. That's it, really. Something's going to happen. What? I don't know.
You should be seeing bumps in color.
Yeah, I mean,
But I try to explain to people, Better Homes and Garden, it takes almost a season and a half to 2 full seasons. Because you've got to retrain the soil, you've got to retrain the roots. There's so much going on under that you physically can't see. And then all of a sudden it comes together and boom, it's looking really good.
Right.
But you do have to let the lawn tell you what's going on. You may have some issues that maybe you're just not aware about, that you may need a boost event just real quick to get it out of its funk.
Yeah.
You may, instead of going with the slow route, you may need something a little bit quicker. You may have a sprinkler that's just slightly off and you haven't done a cup test to make sure that you're getting your 1.5 inches of water during the hot months a week. There's just a lot.
And actually, I think a lot of the time with a foliar application of something, it can, depending on when stuff was applied, what the temperatures, what sunlight was like, you can get a drying on tissue, and that can cause like a little bit of a shock that way as well. That's common. So, water, just water. That would be the thing that usually activates stuff. So if it sits on there, leave tissue too long, you can dry up, get little, it's not really a big deal. But
So what about irrigation and pH?
what about it?
Yeah.
What about it?
Somebody wants to know about the pH of the water.
Do it.
Yeah,
Irrigate.
It can affect everything. I mean, if you are watering a ton of high pH water, you're going to affect your soil just because of what it's leaving behind. And that's going to be calcium carbonate mostly. And that can tie up your soil at the time, so it's something to look out for. In Florida, where they use a lot of secondary water, there's a high pH in there. It's very calcitic. There's more and more people having to apply sulfur a couple times a year just to offset the water that they're doing, because the more you water with that, the more dehydrated the plant gets. Wild. So
Riverton, you can flip between the two.
Yep.
Irrigation, culinary. You adjust what you're applying based off of which water source you're using, or is there not enough variation?
it really just depends. Since your secondary water can change, I think it's good to have a cheap pH meter to just stick on there and see what's happening. That's a good gauge for everything, because there's target ranges of neutral, but mostly things should be around neutral. They should be, unless you're getting some not good stuff. So I know that what comes out of Utah Lake towards the end of the season is way different than what it starts out with.
Saratoga Springs.
Yeah. So you kind of have to watch it a little bit, and you can flush with regular culinary water. If you can run a sprinkler, you can push some of those salts out and kind of move it around. But that is something to look at.
I mean, to be honest with you, what I use, I just use gypsum and humic, and I open it up to allow it to pass.
Yeah.
And that's been kind of a claim to fame for us in Saratoga Springs. Yeah, so if you see my video on monitoring grass, I've taken a little bit of flack on that one,
But ultimately, yeah, you get that gypsum and humic in early spring, mid, and August. It helps push it down, but the problem is, like John was saying, it's coming back no matter what, because the salt content coming from Utah Lake, it just, a lot of things that are happening in the water and the pH, it's a never-ending battle, but you can get it there, but you're always going to be having a battle. That's tough.
I think, you know, when you dive down the rabbit hole of overall nutrition and chemical interactions and all that kind of stuff, you will completely lose sight of just adding green grass. It's a good thing to not learn about. I'm going to tell you right now, you will lose your minds. Like, well, now I'm not putting down enough nickel. You're like, no, don't, just stop. Just stop. You know, like, don't even worry about it. Look at it. Make sure you don't have any holes in your program. You don't have to get, unless you want to have a profession to where you're, you know, yeah, just don't eat, just look at the grass. Keep it dark green. Yes.
I want to know, should you get your water pH tested?
They can do that themselves. If you can just look at it, or if you want to get a water test, if you think that you have issues, now that's common in agriculture based on water and pivots and all that stuff. They want to know what's coming out because they can buffer the soil against contaminants that are coming from the water, and oftentimes the contaminants coming from the water are just what is flushed through from the fields anyway. So it's up to them. But again, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? If you want to go get it tested and look at it, you'd be like, great, it says it's water. Now what? So, just pick how far you want to go. It doesn't hurt, but you're armed with knowing you have water. Congratulations. Is there more to that?
How should a homeowner properly treat high pH levels of like 8?
Of 8? Again, this is something you want to look at to see what's
PPN is 450. Whatever that means.
PPN is 450 of what?
I don't know.
That doesn't apply.
So what's the best way to lower the pH in your soil?
In general.
In general.
Okay, so the two biggest contributing factors to high soil, well, 3. Let's go, how far do I want to go? Let's make it to 2. We'll just stick with 2 and then we'll get into deeper stuff. But calcium and magnesium are the biggest contributors to high soil pH. Magnesium being about 1.67 times more like adjusting your pH. That one's harder. You're going to go in there with sulfur or potassium sulfate, P to kind of get things down. If your calcium's really high, you're actually going to have to apply magnesium, but you're still going to want to bring down some sulfur. So the main buffers that I recommend are gypsum for high pH. That's pretty common because usually magnesium is higher than calcium. If it's not, then I typically recommend a KMS, or KMag, if anybody's ever seen that, because it's got higher potassium, sulfur, and magnesium, or just straight up elemental sulfur.
If we put down gypsum, is that a long-term solution or just a short-term?
It's pretty short. You know, when you think about soil constructs as it is, the top 6 inches, your topsoil over an acre weighs about 2 million pounds. Okay, if you're going to put down a 50-pound sack of something over an acre, don't expect major changes. That's nothing. So it's a slow build. But if we can get our CECs more in balance so that we see good calcium, magnesium, potassium, and that salt content is in balance, even if the pH is shifted one way or the other, we will have a good flow through of nutrients. So that piece is really communicating to the soil in the best way. So it's important to look at. Follow-up question. Just went away. We're done. Anything else with that?
I got another one if we want to keep going. Jacob has zoysia in a transition zone. Not a lot of information on warm season transitions. Is it okay to winterize zoysia with fertilizer in the fall?
Of course. Where is he? See if he says where he is.
Where are you?
Where are you? Any transition?
Jacob.
I could pretty much run Oklahoma across if he's in the Carolinas. It just kind of depends on where he is.
Nothing.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Typically on warm season grasses, stuff that's going to stay, that doesn't go dormant, usually you're putting down potassium around this time, and anything that's going to go dormant, I like to put an in-load out beforehand so that it comes out back in the springtime.
There you go.
Yeah. All right.
Question answered. That's it. That's it for me.
That's it? That's it? Is that it?
Anything else?
That's it?
Anybody?
All right.
That's it.
That's it. That's it. That's it.
Hey, John, is that it?
That's it.
That's it.
Yes.
You're pro.